Okay, I genuinely don't know what is happening. A 26-year-old woman losing her life. And before anybody starts saying I'm blaming ENHYPEN or blaming Ni-ki, that's not what I'm doing. Because there are actually several different things happening in this story, and I think people are mixing all of them together. There was a concert, there was a fan named Mina, there were some flowers. Ni-ki later said something during a live stream. People decided he was talking about Mina, and then this girl basically became public enemy number one in parts of the fandom. And honestly, some of the things people did to her afterward are way more disturbing to me than whatever happened at that concert. So let's actually talk about what happened. Mina was a 26-year-old ENHYPEN fan, and she was particularly a Ni-ki fan. She wasn't somebody who had just discovered ENHYPEN yesterday either. She had been to several concerts and fan signs. She followed the group very closely, and she was already known by quite a few people in the fandom. Recently, she traveled to the United States for an ENHYPEN concert on the Blood Saga tour, and apparently she came prepared. She had flowers that she wanted to give to Ni-ki. Now, there are different versions of exactly what happened with those flowers, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every detail being spread online is a confirmed fact. But the general story is that the flowers ended up with Sunoo instead of Ni-ki. Mina apparently wanted Sunoo to give them to Ni-ki. There are people who were at the concert claiming that she threw the flowers toward the stage and kept asking Sunoo to hand them to Ni-ki, while other people interpreted the situation differently. And apparently the reason some people became annoyed with her was because they felt she was focusing too much on getting that interaction instead of simply enjoying the concert. Okay, you can think that. You can say, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. That's completely fair. But then the concert ended and Mina went to the send-off, and this is basically where I think people need to understand why she later connected Ni-ki's comments to herself. Because at the send-off, she actually interacted with Ni-ki and Sunoo. She took pictures with them and everything seemed fine. Then Ni-ki later went on live and he started talking about something that honestly idols have talked about many times before. Fans trying so hard to get noticed that they forget to actually enjoy the concert. He was basically saying that he wants engines to have fun together. He wants people jumping around, enjoying the music, creating an atmosphere, because that's what a concert is supposed to be. But he said that sometimes there are people who aren't really enjoying themselves because they're too focused on getting the members to notice them. And when he sees that, it apparently takes some of the excitement away for him. Now, here's where I think the internet made a massive leap. Ni-ki didn't say Mina's name. He didn't say that fan who came to my concert. He didn't point at her. He didn't identify her, but people knew Mina had just been at the concert. They knew she had interacted with Ni-ki. They knew she had posted pictures. They knew about the flowers. So people basically put two and two together and decided he's talking about Mina. And once that idea took off, that's when the whole thing became ugly, because apparently people weren't satisfied with just criticizing what she did. They started going after her personally. Private information was allegedly leaked. There were people spreading information about her previous jobs. Rumors started flying around, and some fan accounts, including accounts with blue check marks, were apparently jumping into the situation and accusing her of being an obsessive fan and bringing up things about her past to make her look even worse. And I'm sorry, but this is where I completely lose patience with fandoms, because what exactly are we doing here? Someone annoyed you at a concert. Okay, you don't like her behavior, fine, but why are you now searching for her private information? Why are you digging into where she worked? Why are you spreading rumors? Why are you sending somebody hate messages over a concert? It's a K-pop group. These people are not your family members. You don't need to defend them like you're going to court tomorrow morning. And apparently, Mina did eventually apologize for the way she behaved at the concert. But by that point, the situation had already become much bigger than the original incident. And the more she spoke about what was happening, the more people discovered the drama. Eventually, she went on live herself, and according to people who watched it, Mina was crying and was clearly in a very bad state emotionally. She talked about Ni-ki's comments and apparently said that she no longer wanted to be a fan because of what happened. And this is something I think people need to understand. Even if Ni-ki was not talking about her, imagine being in her position. You've just attended a concert. You've spent all this money money and effort traveling for it. You've interacted with your favorite members. Then suddenly thousands of people are telling you that an idol was calling you out. And everywhere you look, people are repeating your name and attacking you. At some point, you're probably going to start wondering, was he actually talking about me? And apparently that's exactly what happened. Mina reportedly believed Ni-ki's comments were directed at her because of the interaction she'd had at the concert, but she also apparently acknowledged that he could have been talking about other fans too. So even she didn't seem completely certain. She was just deeply hurt by the situation. She reportedly said that she had put a lot of effort into traveling to the United States, and she also expressed frustration over how she felt Ni-ki had treated Asian fans compared with American fans. She felt like he was colder toward the Asian fans and more friendly toward American fans. And she apparently started feeling like her values no longer matched Ni-ki's. Now, you can disagree with everything she said. You can think she misunderstood Ni-ki. You can think she was being overly sensitive. You can think her behavior at the concert wasn't appropriate. All of those are opinions people are allowed to have, but none of that explains what happened next. Because while she was already dealing with all of this online, people watching her live stream were apparently seeing just how badly she was struggling. And according to accounts from people who watched it, she had been drinking heavily. There were also claims that she had taken pills. Then at some point, she walked away from the camera. And shortly afterward, police arrived. Mina had died by suicide. And this is the part where I honestly don't even know what to say, because suddenly we're no longer talking about a fandom argument. We're talking about someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's friend, a 26-year-old woman who thought she still had more life to live. And according to accounts of her final moments, some of the things she said were, "There's no more fun left. I can't do it anymore. I'm scared." And one of the most heartbreaking things she reportedly said was that she was scared because she still wanted to live a little longer. Just think about that for a second. She still wanted to live, and yet somehow all of this had reached a point where she felt like she couldn't continue, and her friends later shared heartbreaking messages about her passing. Her sister also reportedly confirmed that she had died. But what makes this even more disturbing is that the harassment didn't simply disappear after she was gone. In fact, some people apparently continued talking about her, spreading rumors about her. Screenshots from that live stream started circulating, including screenshots of her in a very vulnerable state. There were even people making jokes about the fact that she had apparently taken pills. And I'm sorry, but what kind of person sees somebody crying and clearly falling apart and thinks, let me leave a hate comment? Like, what are you getting from that? At what point does fandom stop being fandom and just become cruelty? There were also disturbing images circulating online that were allegedly connected to the live stream. I'm not going to analyze whether those images are real, fake, AI generated, or whatever else people are arguing about, because honestly, that isn't even the point. If somebody has died, why are you taking images from their final moments and spreading them around the internet? Have some respect. And then you had people saying, don't talk about this, because what about Ni-ki? Imagine how this is going to affect him. And I'm sorry, but what about her family? What about her friends? What about the people who actually knew this woman? Why are we more worried about how this situation might affect an ENHYPEN member than the family that has just lost their daughter or sister? That doesn't mean I want Ni-ki to suffer. I don't. In fact, I think people blaming Ni-ki and saying he has blood on his hands are also taking this too far. Because let's be fair here. Ni-ki did not tell anybody to attack Mina. He didn't tell people to leak her information. He didn't tell anyone to send her threats. He didn't tell people to harass her. And his comments, taken on their own, weren't some insane statement. Idols have complained about fans being more interested in getting noticed than watching the actual performance plenty of times. The complicated part is whether he knew exactly who he was talking about. Maybe he was talking about Mina. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was talking about several fans. We simply don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what was inside his head. What I do know is that people took his words, connected them to Mina, and then used that as permission to attack her. And that's where I think the real problem is, because there were already people who apparently disliked Mina long before this concert. I've seen screenshots screenshots showing that she had been receiving insults from NGenes as far back as 2025. So this wasn't necessarily a situation where everyone suddenly became angry because of the flowers. It seems like there were already people waiting for another reason to go after her. And once they had one, everything exploded. Even the flower situation was turned into something much bigger than it needed to be. Some people were acting like Mina, giving flowers to Sunoo and asking him to pass them to Ni-ki, somehow proved that she hated Sunoo, but that doesn't even make sense. Yes, Ni-ki was her bias. That doesn't automatically mean she hated every other member. From what has been said, she wanted the flowers to create a moment between Sunoo and Ni-ki. So even if you think the way she handled the situation was awkward, where did the whole she hates Sunoo narrative come from? This is what happens when people already dislike somebody. Every little thing becomes evidence. She looks at the wrong person. She's rude. She doesn't react enough. She's arrogant. She gets noticed by an idol. She's an attention seeker. She doesn't get noticed. She's angry. There is literally no way to win once thousands of people have already decided they hate you. And that's why I really don't like calling the people who harassed her just fans who were upset. No. There is a difference between being annoyed with someone and deliberately trying to destroy them. If you sent her threats, leaked her personal information, encouraged people to attack her, mocked her while she was clearly suffering, or continued spreading hateful rumors about her, you knew exactly what you were doing. And I don't care whether your original reason was a concert. I don't care whether you thought she was annoying. I don't care whether you thought she was obsessive. You don't get to treat another human being like that. At the same time, I don't think it's fair to say that we know every single thing that happened in Mina's life, or that we can confidently say one specific person caused her death. She may have already been struggling with things we knew nothing about. We don't know everything that was happening behind the scenes, but what we do know is that she was being subjected to an enormous amount of online harassment while she was visibly distressed. And that should be enough for people to understand how serious cyberbullying can become. Because those comments that people love to dismiss as just words, they're not just words when someone is reading hundreds or thousands of them while they're already struggling. And apparently one of Mina's final Instagram stories involved someone sending her another hateful message, and she responded by basically asking, "Why do I have to put up with a complete stranger telling me all this?" And honestly, she didn't. She shouldn't have had to. Nobody should. You don't have to like another fan. You don't have to support their behavior. You don't even have to defend them. But you can simply leave them alone, because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be entertainment. Going to turn this into another opportunity to attack Ni-ki. I don't think he deserves to be called a murderer for making a comment that may not even have been about Mina. And I don't think we should keep spreading rumors about Mina either now that she's gone. She deserves to rest. Her family deserves peace. And honestly, that's where I think everyone's attention should be right now. Not another fan war, not another argument about who was right at the concert, not another attempt to protect an idol's image. Just basic human decency. Because whatever you think about Mina, she was still a human being, and that's something people seem to forget far too easily online. And this has been all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.